Good morning, everybody. It is Coffee and Pan Dulce time. I'm Jenny-Jaymes Gunn and my show partner, Ruth Cano. How are you doing? It's the first Wednesday of March, actually. Technically, if you're seeing this right now when we broadcast it, it is March 2nd. We do pre-record it nowadays, but when we drop this show, it will be Wednesday, March 2nd. How are you doing, Christian?
I'm doing wonderful. I was trying to jam a little bit to Selena again. Last week we started. Yeah, last week we started with Selena, and ironically, it was on again. She's everywhere.
Yeah. Well, if you've ever grown up in Texas,
yeah,
especially if you've lived in South Texas, in the last, I don't know, 30 years,
20 years, 30 years. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, she's been dead 20 years at least.
I mean, yeah, that's right.
It was late 90s, wasn't it?
I mean, yeah, that's right.
Maybe mid 90s.
Yeah.
And then she'd been
on for like at least a decade. I remember. I mean, because they started young. So.
Oh yeah, she was a kid whenever. We started playing, like local events and. Like fairs and the stock shows in San Antonio and Houston and like that. And then, finally got, I guess, air quotes, discovered and then, and then became a huge star. And then
unfortunately,
at the end, I believe it was her manager that killed her. Or
she was the president of the fan club that helped her. That helped her at the boutique store. So it was bizarre, crazy.
And it really, of course, whenever a entertainer, especially musicians, when they die suddenly and of maybe not necessarily natural causes, it seems to create even more of a, more of a legend, more of a presence than maybe, had she lived a long life and, and who knows if she even, people would even be listening to her songs anymore.
Well, she was expected to be like the next Gloria Estefan.
It's pretty tough to replace. I mean, but anyway.
Yeah, let's get the show started. Everyone who's listening to our banter. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee and Pan Dulce. I'm Christian Cano, one of your co-hosts, along with Jenny Gunn, Mama Ruth, and Barb Bacon. Barb Bacon is actually off. She is actually helping her other half in a marathon. So she's in Virginia Beach, I believe, and she promised she'll be with us next week because we have 3 back-to-back great shows coming up as well. Besides this one, today, as Jenny said, is March the 2nd, the first Wednesday of March. Welcome to March, Jenny. February.
This is my first favorite month of the year.
Okay. Why is that?
I can't stand winter, and it's a super easy answer. And we have the time change coming up pretty soon, and we get the spring forward, which I absolutely adore. And it just. You get warmer weather, you start seeing trees starting to bud out, you start getting that spring feeling,
allergies.
I'm good with it. I'll get
I don't have any allergies. I'm lucky, knock on wood. Yeah.
But I survived January. I'm glad February is a short month, and I'm always excited when we get into March. It gives me just some energy, and it's super exciting. So I love it.
Yeah.
I'm here for it.
Yeah, well, I'm sure a lot of people are ready for as we start to come out of the not really coming out of the pandemic, but it was a certain from pandemic to the what is it called? Pandemic to an endemic? Is that the term?
I think so. I guess the next time we have Dr. B on,
exactly, we'll ask him. Yeah.
When does a pandemic shift to that next phase? And do they call it an endemic? Or what will be the because I think the flu is considered is endemic.
Yes, so I believe so.
Whereas not that we need to get a deep dive in that either. Topic, but flu, you have a flu season, and everybody starts getting their flu shots in August and September, and it's definitely more of a seasonal thing. And I think that's what they're thinking COVID's going to be is that maybe in the warmer months, because you can be outside more, that
it wouldn't be as contagious or so
becomes
forth.
less strong and less prolific as it's been the last 2 years.
That's right. Well, listen, let's get the show started.
Yeah.
It is just you and I carrying the show again, which is fine because we do very well. Also, we do have a, if you're watching this, you probably see another square called Blue Sky Timer. We're not going to use it, but we do have this wonderful Blue Sky Timer that does wonderful countdown. So whenever Jenny and I tell each other 30 seconds or less, we actually will have to follow that 30 seconds. We won't do it tonight, but it would be funny because I can't figure out how to get it to go, and so when we do that, we'll get it started so we can just see if you and I can stay within 30 seconds of our comments, which we'll see what happens. All right, so I've done all the, okay, let's go to introduce yourself and your cause and imaginary buttons. So go ahead, Jenny.
Hi, I'm Jenny-Jaymes Gunn. My pronouns are she, they. And if I had buttons on, it would be one for the National Organization for Women Charlotte chapter. The number 2 would probably be healthcare for all. I think if we learned any lessons from the pandemic, which is debatable, our society definitely needs to prioritize healthcare, and making sure that everybody can afford it would be a big one. I mean, because we look at how much the federal government helped for paying for vaccines and stuff like that, which is really, we need an infrastructure for all healthcare needs, mental health, physical health, all the above. Gun sense laws, it's just, it's when we don't have really big news in like World War III going on right now, we typically just see so much senseless violence, whether it is suicide or a school being shot up or whatever. We need to make guns make sense for our society, just like any other consumer item.
Good points, Jen. I'm Christian Cano, as I mentioned before. My buttons are healthcare for all, Medicare for all, Moms of Inaction, gun sense legislation, and in my heart, Joe Oldham, who passed away last year, almost a year ago last year. He was a freaking guest of ours. So Joe Oldham and Black Lives Matter. So with that said, let's go ahead and salute to our neighbor, whatever you're drinking this morning. I'm actually drinking soda pop. Not drinking coffee right now. Had too much already. And then we also want to thank our Pan Dulce sponsor, Manolo's Bakery. Manolo's Bakery on Central Avenue. This is a concha. It's a type of pastry or pan dulce. Manolo's Bakery on Central Avenue. Please visit your Black and brown small businesses during this global pandemic. Always buy local. And you only have, where you're watching this, it's too late to buy the King's Cake. You can buy a King's Cake any time you want. But Manolo was selling King's Cakes, and I actually have one. And part of the proceeds went to support Ukraine, actually. So that was a wonderful thing that he did. So with that said, we have 3 quick topics before we jump into our show topic, which I haven't even said. The show topic today is, sorry, Jenny, I'm a little off today, as usual.
Today.
Yeah, that's right. I knew you were going to come back on that one. Our show topic today is against BLM, Black Lives Matter, but support Freedom Convoy. We want to dig deep into all those people who are supporting this Freedom Convoy that started in Canada, but yet they never supported Black Lives Matter. So
amazing.
We'll touch, we'll touch on that. Yeah, exactly, amazing. All right. So with that said, let's talk about the 3 current events. First one, there is a teen who is kind of like an IT techie guy who's been following Elon Musk, and I think, anyways, like 3 guys, and Elon Musk offered him like $10,000 to stop. He's got this program that follows wherever Elon Musk goes because it tracks his jet. And Elon Musk told him, please stop doing it because it's a safety hazard, whatever. And he said, give me, and I'll stop. And he won't do it. So he's tracking him. You can follow him on Twitter. Well, he has made the decision to put it to even better use. And he's now following all of the Russian oligarchs, I guess that's how you pronounce it. So you will know where they're going as well. So that is a wonderful, wonderful thing. I don't know if it's wonderful. Anyway, so if you want to comment on that. Another one, our I don't even know how to say this anymore. MTG spoke at the CPAC convention this weekend, but she spoke at a white supremacist, white nationalist group, and says that she didn't know they were white nationalists. And anyway, she's getting a lot of backlash. And so, you know, once again, what do you think about that? And then in Texas, and this is kind of a serious topic, but, you know, we want to kind of briefly talk about it. In Texas, the governor, the crazy governor there, had issued an executive order saying that it was, and I'm paraphrasing, Jenny, you can correct me here, that it's like child abuse if you allow your child to go through therapy or something like that. And then he actually asked the crazier Attorney General, Ken Paxton, to give his legal advice that if he thought that was appropriate. Of course, Ken Paxton, who's a crazy religious nut guy, indicted 3 times, came back and said, it is child abuse. Texas law says it's child abuse. So this is a really big thing, but then Ukraine started and people haven't been talking about it. So those are the 3 topics. So Jen, I know you're not going to keep it in 30 seconds because these are kind of important. So let's talk about those.
I guess the Elon Musk thing, that's actually pretty damn funny. I mean, just for one, I just love the shade being put on him. You know, the oligarch thing is pretty cool too, but
yeah,
I just got to say, it's kind of funny that a technology mogul like Elon Musk is being harassed. I don't even say harassed.
I guess he's trolled, right?
Yeah, I guess maybe trolled would be the right word.
Okay.
By some young person that has used technology against him, and he's such a. I think that there's just like a delicious irony there. I don't know. He made more money than he ever should, and is now being trolled by this young person. Gives me hope. The Texas thing. Obviously, the extraordinarily stupid Governor Abbott is doing this as a grandstanding thing because they don't have a platform. The GOP, you know, or as I like to call them, the girlfriends of Putin, it literally have no platform. They have no vision for America or for, I'm going to be using it in the next show too.
Yeah, exactly.
Literally have to come up with these imaginary red meat issues to just feed to the ravenous Christian horde of idiots to target kids. And they're literally targeting kids and saying that doing any kind of transitional stuff for the trans kids out there, and this includes actual just therapy, just like talk therapy.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, the kids being able to have a safe harbor, it's just unreal. It is just like something that Putin would do. It's the behavior.
Exactly.
The Republican Party has turned into an authoritarian mess, and it literally, I can see why they have so much love for Putin, because it's exactly the way they operate. And in fact, I mean, we're seeing more and more that many Russian oligarchs have donated to Republican candidates through different black money funds. So I think, or dark money funds, I should say. So it's just, he's doing this primarily to create some campaign issues because he knows there's a good chance he's going to lose the battle. He just knows, and he's so desperate that he's willing to target kids.
Exactly.
Target them with violence, target them with harassment, target them. Now, luckily, all the big cities in Texas and all the big city prosecutors said, absolutely not. We're not going to do this. Just like the state police chief, when they tried to pass a bathroom bill there, they said, well, I'm not going to enforce it. I'm not going to allow my officers to enforce it. And the Dallas PD said the same thing. You know, all the big cities, all the more powerful, rational adults that work for, you know, governments in Texas would never ever pursue this. It's just a grandstanding, childish, very, very dangerous, and all the more reason to fire him.
Yeah. So MTG.
you know, I'm pretty sure she doesn't get through much of her day without slugging back some wine. You have to be constantly drunk to say this. Like, and we're going to do a little bit deeper dive about this in the next show too. But
okay, all right.
But good Lord, you know, how can you not know that you're at a white nationalist, white supremacy rally when the speaker before you praised Hitler?
Exactly, and they were chanting Putin, Putin.
Yeah, and said, and she even said, well, Putin being the next Hitler is not so bad. And then she apologized for that. And I'm like, you know, I mean, for one thing, I think that they think that they can just do this in this era, and there's not going to be consequences. And I believe that they realize that no matter what, people already know that they're racist, bigot, homophobic, human beings. And so I think now they're just going, how far can we push it? You know, how far?
Yeah, they don't.
We can do Zig Heil and have these Hitler rallies and these Putin rallies. And I think they just gotten to the point where they don't care until they get backlash.
Exactly. Yep. I agree. So yeah, I mean, you know, the teen tracking thing, I thought that was kind of humorous when I first read that about a month ago. His Twitter handle is called Elon's Jet, and he tracks Elon Musk, and now he's going to track the oligarchs. So if you want to follow him on Twitter, it's called Elon's plural Jet, and he tracks these celebrities' jets, and apparently he's got this program that allows people to do it, and he's trying to sell the program, and he actually offered to sell it to Elon Musk, but he was too cheap, he wouldn't pay it. So anywho, I think it's hilarious he's going to start tracking the oligarchs. I think that's a good use of something like this. And then the MTG thing, I just, you know, all weekend long, I just, you know, the only positive thing I can say about that is the former county Republican chairperson for the county that she is elected in Georgia, I think it's district number 1, I believe, in Georgia 1. The former came out and said she's worked her whole life to get Republicans elected. She's no longer the chairperson, but she used to be, and said, I don't know if it's a he or she, and said, this is not what we stand for. This is wrong, and she's going to do everything she can to make sure someone else gets this. So the people in her county, we know they've been turning against her anyway. So I'm really anxious to see if she can even get past her primary. I think she's going to lose her general election because she's got some good Democrats running. One of them wears a cowboy hat, by the way, and
Marcus Flowers.
That's right. That's right. Yeah,
I followed him when he first.
You're the one that told me about it. That's right.
Yeah, and in fact, I'm still on his texting list and his email list. And got a good shot at winning the primary. I believe he's not running unopposed. I think there's a woman for running against him. Yeah, there's at least 2 running for that for the chance to run
Democratic.
PD.
Sure.
But he's doing really well. He's trending real well. He's kind of this black cowboy, real folksy, real Georgia. I mean, just like I would have moved to that district just to vote for him. You know, and he seems to be playing the common sense role and just really framing MTG the way she's to be framed, but also at the same time staying on issues too. And he's doing a lot of what we talk about on the show, a lot about how to run against, you know, a toxic Republican. Exactly. And I think if he, you know, and I don't know enough about the other Democrats running. I just know him because I think he's pretty much the front runner.
I think he is. I think he's considered.
And he's been running quite a while. So I think it's going to be interesting. I would love for her, MTG, to have to run against a person of color, especially that white supremacist event.
Exactly.
It's just delicious.
She's crazy. I mean, she's just crazy.
You know, so I think that would make a very interesting debate. I
Yeah.
don't think she'd have.
And the Texas thing, it's just so sad. I mean, there's a tendency to just go and just blow it off, but we can't allow this to become normal. And I know they keep trying and trying. The logical thing is, 80% of my family, I guess 90% of my family lives in Texas. And I'm hoping that that what we were taught by our grandparents and our parents, the common sense stuff kicks in. All of this stuff is being brought out, whether it's the books, the cancel culture, the woke crowd, all these terms they're using, and now he's throwing this out, always happens right before an election. The primary is tomorrow. And Abbott is being challenged by, 2 or 3 people who they may force him into a runoff, but I think he's going to win his primary. But this is the whole reason he's doing this. But he's doing it, like you said, at the expense of children. It is so hateful. It is so mean-spirited. And I just hope that people, people who it appeals to, I have nothing to say about them because there's nothing I can say that's going to ever convince them that this is wrong. And I hope just good people and people just kind of stand up to this. But anyway, the primaries in Texas, I'm sorry, this is Wednesday the 2nd. The primaries were last night, March the 1st in Texas. So we'll talk about those elections next week.
This is the only disadvantage of pre-recording a show.
That's right.
Just like last week. I think the war started the day that our show started.
That's right. It did.
We don't know if he's going to invade or not.
That's right. And the State of the Union address was last night.
Right.
So anyway, we got a lot of catching up to do. All right. So with that said, Jen, let's take a quick break so we can talk about next week's show. We've got a great show coming up next week. So we're going to pause for just a moment to talk about next week's show. Hey, I'm Christian Cano. I wanted to thank you so much for watching our Coffee Pan Dulce shows. I also want to thank you so much for watching us on our video podcast, which is on Facebook and YouTube, but also for listening to us on our audio podcast shows on your favorite audio podcast platform like Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Podcast Chaser, and many more. Once again, thanks for watching us and listening to us on Coffee Pan Dulce. Bye, y'all. All right, well, welcome back. Thank you. And once again, join us next week on a great show that we're going to have. So, Jen, let's jump into this topic because this kind of talks. I don't know if what we're going to talk about here blends into any of the stuff we talked about on the current events. They all are intertwined. This freedom convoy that's in Canada that has occurred, that now that, they want to, apparently the founders of the Tea Party in 2009, Patriots, one of those groups that really you've never heard anything about, probably in about 6 or 7 years. The Tea Party Patriots, they did all these big Tea Party events all around the country in 2009. And that's how and remember we started calling them the Tea Baggers, which no one understood. If you were a Tea Party person, you didn't really understand what that meant. And they were like, yeah, we're Tea Baggers. There's a different meaning what that meant, but it was a derogatory term to explain them. And so they are trying to co-opt, they've tried to take over this Freedom Convoy thing, and they're going across the country. And it started in Lansing, Michigan, and that one had like 2 people in it. And then there's one coming across. One of them has already stopped because they didn't have enough people. But there's 2 of them that they think is actually gaining people. And they're starting in Arizona and Dallas and Texas. They're going all the way across. They want to end up in DC this weekend. That's kind of their goal. So the people who are supporting these convoys and these protests, and we're supporting all these protests in Canada, that group. The question was, why weren't these people supporting the same type of stuff that we actually had here in America when we had the Black Lives Matter protest occurring in 2020 or 2020, right? Yeah, 2020. Yeah. And so that's the question. I think it's a pretty obvious answer for me, but I'm curious to hear what you have to say, because a lot of times maybe I'm thinking it from a different point. So tell me what you think about that.
Well, I mean, there's no shortage of hypocrisy in the alt-right terrorist mindset, and quite frankly, I find it strange how they have zero conscience. They have zero, they've just gotten to the point where they just know that they're on the wrong side of history. And I truly believe they don't really care anymore. I think they crave what Putin has, and they crave that all-encompassing power that they've had most of our history of our country, to where they've been able to keep down all the others.
Yeah.
And these are predominantly, white people, white conservatives, predominantly white males,
Yeah.
and their enabler females, and they are as toxic as they appear. It's a level of toxicity we've never acknowledged in this country. It's always existed.
Sure.
I mean, anybody's going to create slavery and have a civil war and wars for profit. Obviously, we've always had a toxic country. We've always had a toxic mindset. But now they're just letting it all hang out. And when you see how, it was, Black Lives Matter is funded by the Chinese, and it's a communist plot, and all these foreign people are donating to BLM.
Exactly.
Ironically, the trucker,
and they were mobs and destroying cities and
all this horrible stuff, and shutting down businesses and commerce and all that, which is exactly what the trucker convoy did.
Exactly what they did.
And literally, also the biggest point is that most of the funding for that did not come from Canadians, and so so it came from foreign countries, including the United States. And so I think and again, anytime that you see a Republican / conservative standing up, pointing a finger, immediately investigate. Because projection. They're doing exactly what they accuse other people of doing every single time. Every single time they say something, you might as well just look into what they're doing, because sooner or later you're going to find out they're the ones doing it, and it's just really crazy. It's got to the point where I just go, oh, well, can't wait for that other shoe to drop.
So, I mean, you're exactly right, Jen. And one of the things that I have been doing, and I think we all need to do this, look at your family, your friends on social media, the people that you remember that were so outspoken against Black Lives Matter, that are so outspoken against the marches. You and I participated in, I think, several of them. They were very peaceful. They were very diverse. The people that are posted how the rule of law and all this kind of stuff. Look at those people. And when these truck convoys come to your city and threaten to create chaos and black traffic, if they're not posting the same stuff that they did against Black Lives Matter, they're telling you a lot about them. You probably know it already, but they are, I mean, you and I have talked about this. This is just exposing people that we know already are who they are.
We went through this with the mass protests in 2020 as well. Like, when they threatened the Michigan governor and the other governors, including Governor Cooper here in North Carolina. And it was ironic that they only would protest in states that had Democratic governors. They never protested in states that had mask mandates and Republican, governors. And many of the states that it just is funny how hypocritical it is. And whereas if you looked at the Black Lives Matters protests, some of the biggest protests were in Democrat states. We had huge in both Raleigh and in Charlotte here in North Carolina. We've had a Democratic governor since 2017. Washington State and Seattle had some of the longest running ones. They had some of those protests that ran almost in Portland too. Both of those states had Democratic governors, and both of those states had some of the longest running protests, and protesting in states that had Democratic governors. And so the difference is, and here's a huge difference between BLM and this trucker convoy, is that they're not doing it as a political deal nearly as much as, hey, we're getting killed, we're getting murdered, we're getting deal. The truckers, this is purely political. This is 100% political. This has nothing to do with saving lives, saving people's rights, anything like that. It is just, it's being propped up by political organizations, religious organizations. I should say religious, Christian organizations.
Yep.
Specifically Christian.
Christian nationalists is what they call them.
Yeah.
They're
white,
these, which is
basically
right.
The Klan.
Yeah. Exactly.
Let's call it what we said. White
exactly.
Christianity is the KKK, and or a version of it, just like we saw this last weekend. And literally, that's who's propagating this trucker thing, and they're trying to make it a thing here in the United States, which it's not taking off at all. It's doing as good as Donald Trump's new social media site. I can tell you that.
That's right. Well, on that note, let's take another break and let's talk about some shows that are coming up in our spring schedule. We'll take another break. We'll be right back. Hi, I'm Christian Cano. Thank you so much for joining us on Coffee and Pan Dulce. And also thank you so much for watching us on Facebook and on YouTube. But also don't forget, you can actually listening to us on your favorite audio podcast platform like Apple, Spotify, Google, Amazon, Deezer, Podcast Addict, Podcast Chaser, and others. Once again, thank you so much for watching us and listening to us on Coffee and Pan Dulce. Have a great day. All right, well, welcome back, and please don't forget to stick with us in the rest of March and April and May as we have some great shows coming up as well. So one of the things that you talked about, Jenny, that I thought was very interesting, and you mentioned this, is I know we sound like a broken recorder, you and I. It's just over and over again. And you said this, and I've kind of followed what you've said, is COVID. What you said something, and I've said it before. COVID has exposed or told us who people really are.
COVID's the
great filter. Yeah. That's right.
I mean, COVID, because as a worldwide pandemic, you're going to find out who's going to come to their neighbor's aid, who's going to do the things that you need to do. That should be typical things, should be normal things if you're a decent human being, like covering your face up, getting immunized, just normal.
You would think that.
Things. You found out who has no ethics, doesn't care about the people, is just a cruel human being that is willing to politicize a very deadly, airborne virus. And you discovered, and I just deleted somebody off my Facebook and blocked them just a couple of days ago. I just finally got tired. He lives in Texas, and I met him right before I transitioned. And so, but he's just gone off the rails the last couple of years. And I just said what I need to say, deleted our friendship on Facebook, blocked him. I don't want to see we can't enable that.
We have to set boundaries.
And for me, it's not worth scrolling down and even saying he's not going to listen, and unfortunately he's going down a path that's probably, going to lose him. He's even said, hey, I know I've lost a lot of people over this, but he just thinks Trump's the greatest thing in the world. And just repeat. It's
unfortunate that someone would be so, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people. Yeah, there's a lot of people. But it's, we got to keep trying. I know you and I had conversations last week about our spring schedule and about some people that we'd like to invite back on our show or on our show. And some people you and I agreed, no, we'll never have them back on our show.
But I think on that subject,
sure.
And I reflected a lot since Putin invaded Ukraine. And, we kind of said the same thing about Putin, is that over the last few years, when he attacked Crimea and attacked Georgia and attacked all these other neighboring states, and he's not so bad, and we need to work it out, and we need all that.
Mm-hmm.
Trump is definitely our Putin.
Sure.
And
Oh, yeah.
everybody that is dedicated to him, everybody in the Republican Party, all of his followers, all of his cult members, at what point do we just not set hard boundaries and go, honestly,
well,
as long as he's still active and he's still eligible to run for president in 2024, how do we enable that in any way, shape, or form? How do we, because I always, we always go, well, how did the people of Germany just get fooled by Hitler? How did they look the other way? How did they look the other way when they hurt transgender kids or hurt their gay neighbor or hurt their black neighbor or hurt this neighbor? It's conversations where we enable those people. And I'm not saying, I think you and I both have to take a hard look as people that are amateur broadcasters with a large audience. Sure. How do we balance? We always talk about ethics on the show. We always talk about we always talk about this, but enabling any Republican at this point, when they are siding with Putin, when they are going to white nationalist events, when they are targeting trans kids, at what point in all of our lives, and not just you and I on this broadcast, but in our lives in general, do we just go, no mas, I'll see you on the flip side? Would you guys either cease to exist as a political party and get replaced and republicanism and gets outlawed, and or we get into a civil war? And we're making hard choices as we speak.
Well, you and I have talked about, and I know I've said it in jest, but I kind of really mean it. I'm not afraid of a civil war because I look at the people that we would be fighting against, and they're not very bright people. And I don't care how many guns you have, all it takes is one drone. So thank goodness we have these wonderful gamers and gamers and on the progressive side who know how to use drones. So that said,
well, it's not even so much the physical civil war, but but we could look down in Texas and see what's going on with the ballots right now and how they're having to, just do double work for somebody just to be able to oppose. At what point are we going to look at this and go, are we even a democracy anymore? And we're talking about this because, again, Russia was at a point where they kept letting Putin change the rules of elections and change it for his favor. He's keeping hold of power because, quite frankly, Putin has made a lot of money. So,
he's got tons. And
we literally just fired somebody because they really wanted to be president, because they wanted power, but they mostly wanted money. And so are we not seeing this parallel in the United States? At what point do we draw a line? What point do we say, as real Americans that want democracy, I don't care if my party wins the presidency every time. What I care about is the other party doing everything they can to be anti-democratic, being anti-democracy. That is very troubling.
I can definitely agree with you on that, Jenny. It does seem like at this moment, who knows, maybe in 3 or 4 months, we'll get more of these people speaking out against MTG in their own party, not just us. More Liz Cheney's, more of those individuals coming out and saying this is not who we are. And I think there was some polling that came out, and I don't have that polling. There was polling that came out that said that for the first time, more Republicans are more loyal to the Republican Party than Trump. He has actually dropped below 50%, and that's actually a bad sign for Trump. And so, people are saying, is that if that continues, then people are getting tired of him. I think, I think it's, we want to know how long it's going to take. I don't know if it's going to happen this year, but there seems to be these people who, the Ted Cruzes and all the people that we hear about, the loud ones. And, I guess we'll find out. Last night, when you're watching this, last night's elections in Texas will be, I think, a signal of kind of things. I don't know if it's ever a true signal, but What do you think about that?
Well, I think the city governor right now, Governor Abbott's probably going to sail through his own primary. I don't think anybody. There's nobody running against him in that primary that can beat him.
Sure.
In his own party.
Sure.
Now, the only good thing about finding out how bad these ballots are in the spring primary is the fact that they will have the ability in place, at least the Democratic Party will have the ability to cure ballots faster and be more and focus on educating people how to cast a proper ballot. And because the Republicans have designed this thing to be very tricky, very anti-democracy, very, very hard to get accepted. And you got to cross a lot of I's. You got to cross a lot of T's and dot a lot of I's to get this through. It's not the simple ballot that it was 2020 and previously. And they've outlawed basically every type of extraneous way of voting, no more 24-hour, no more drive-through voting, very strict rules on mail-in ballots. But I think what's going to backfire on them is that they also are going to put a lot of the rural voters, which are predominantly white, predominantly Republican. I think we're going to see very low turnout in the rural areas, not just this spring, but this fall too.
I agree.
Which will not be good for Governor Abbott, because the only places where they win are in predominantly
those rural areas,
urban areas, and in the metropolitan areas or inside the beltways of the big 5 cities. It's 60 to 80% blue. They turn out, they'll stand. You put a light up, and people of color will stand in it, like you've said before. And they'll stand till dark 30 to vote.
Exactly.
And they're willing to cure their ballots because they know they know historically how hard of a fight it was to vote. Whereas some country bumpkin Republican living out in Muleshoe, Texas, if their ballot doesn't go through, they're going, he's got it anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just a poor white Republican, and then and I think what you're going to see is a lot of white people just show the apathy and think they got it in the bag, and if because their ballots are getting rejected too, and I think what's going to happen, what we saw in Virginia in 2017 when they got the Democratic Party got a clean sweep of the House, the Senate, and the governorship, because Republicans, the previous administration, made it so hard to vote in Virginia that the rural Virginians just stopped voting. And the Democrats said, we're going to push hard and we're going to organize.
That's going to be interesting to see. And I completely agree with you. I mean, I think that, I understand the thinking. I don't agree with it, but I understand the thinking of your old time Republican who says, if someone really wants to vote, they'll vote. That's the thinking. And so because they have that thinking, they say that in their mind, they say, well, if I can get to the voting booth, anyone can get to the voting booth. And maybe if you can't get to the voting booth, you shouldn't be voting. Right. That's the thinking of that. That's their they've got this warped entitlement thinking. That thinking, we're not going to change that thinking. The only thing that we can do is overwhelm that thinking by understanding this is how they think. And we have to, if they make it tougher, we're going to fight it. But we just have to make sure that we get as many people out to vote. So that way in every election, we diminish a little bit of that kind of thinking. There's always going to be people who have that entitlement kind of thinking. And that's the reason when you look at,
but do you think
here in North, go ahead.
But do you think it's an entitlement, or do you think conservatives themselves confuse people by making rights sound like privileges and privileges sound like rights? Because owning a gun is not a right. To bear arms in a militia
Mm-hmm.
2A. And they've used the truth on that, and they've confused the truth on so many things. But right now, I think we do have to take a break.
Yes, let's
a commercial break, and then we'll wrap up the last third of the show, I guess.
All right, we'll be right back.
Up next is Two Queers in a Truck with Jenny and Christian. And hope you guys tune in. We'll see you in about 15 to 20 minutes. Thank you. Bye.
All right, well, welcome back, and thank you. That was talking about our show that comes on about 15 minutes after this. So once again, join us 15 minutes after this show for our other show, Two Queers in a Truck, which Jenny leads, and it's very exciting. So with that said, you made a very good point, Jenny. And one of the things that I've this is kind of what we understand. Early voting generally, not all the time, benefits Democrats, more marginalized individuals. Day of voting, most of the time in the past, has always benefited Republicans. And they've asked the question, why is that? It's because most Republicans have the ability to get off of work, to go to the polls, or retired, or whatever the case may be. And more working class people have a hard time doing that on election day, so they like to early vote. Well, all of that's changed with mail-in ballots and so forth. And that's why they're all, because mail-in ballots are usually just like older white people who did a lot of, and military people and so forth, or people who were going on vacation or whatever. But now that Democrats realize, oh, these are great ways that they're trying to go against it. What I guess what I was trying to say was that it is going to require us to try harder to get people out to vote. And we're just going to have to keep, but I've seen a difference in these millennials. The millennials are willing to wait in line, just like older people of color are willing to wait in line. They're not, these restrictions, I don't know that they're like, okay, that's what I got to do. I don't know. What do you think about that? Do you think they're going to be able to kind of override these restrictions?
And these younger millennials and baby Zs are also really good at technology and figuring things out and using the Google machine and all that. Mm-hmm. So, they'll do their research. They'll Google the ballot. They'll know the right way to do it. And you're seeing, technology lead the way. The only people that'll be affected by this are going to be older people that get confused.
That's exactly right.
That typically is going to hurt the Republican Party, especially rural, less educated voters, poorer folks, people with lower economic
Trump's base,
Trump's base,
exactly.
Abbott
Trump's base.
People that typically vote more Republican than Democrat. And every case study after every case study, every time a Republican administration has gone in and really, really gotten restricted from voting, you've seen Democrats do well in the states in the next few voting cycles. And I believe that both in Florida and Texas, but especially Florida, I think for sure DeSantis is going to lose because he only won by like 40,000 votes last time.
Yeah, that's right. He was really close.
He's killed probably 150,000 Floridians, and most of them have been, Republicans.
Well, that's
Jen, his margin of error is already in the grave. I mean, so there's not to be cruel, but
Yeah, no. I mean, you're correct. And logically, when you and I talk about these kind of things, the reason I think I just get so like this is because I'm like, what are they thinking? What were they thinking with COVID? They're killing their own base.
Right.
In the early days, yes, there were more black and brown individuals who maybe had less access to healthcare and so forth. But their base who didn't want to get vaccinated, who didn't want to wear masks, those are the ones that we have been seeing, right? Dying, and that's their base. What were they thinking about these restrictions? The goal of a candidate or any party is to expand their base, because as the population grows, you want to catch that growth. Their whole policy has been to shrink it.
But you're looking at a party, especially a political party since the era of Trump, they're just like all of Trump's businesses, which have all failed.
Sure.
Is that Trump never has a plan.
Mhm.
He has no idea what he's talking about. He's an expert of nothing. He has no clue. They have no platform anymore. They have no, it's just an authoritarian, win at all costs, lie as much as humanly possible, deny everything, project all their BS onto us. And they have no plan for America. You can't tell me what is the issue-based Republican plan for America to improve America. And there is 0.0 policies that you can point to and say, well, they're for building bridges, they're for building hospitals, they're
Sure.
building technology. They literally have no way of improving America because they have no concern about doing that.
But don't you think? I mean, Jenny, I understand what you're saying, but here's what to me is baffling. I agree with you because I'm looking at the Republican Party like from a national kind of thing, but yet we have these local. Let's say like here in North Carolina, you have like Union County that elects consistently Republicans. Gaston County elects Republicans. In Texas, you have Collin County, the Plano, McKinney, Frisco area that elects Republicans. And then you have other counties around the country. In Florida, you have different little counties that do those kind of things. And in their mind, I wonder if they apparently, I don't know. What I was going to say doesn't make any sense because I'm not in their mind. But the only thing I can think of is they must say, I know Trump's not. You guys are taking him too seriously. He doesn't mean it. Like what they said before. Every time he would say something.
Wait.
I think.
Wait.
Okay.
Why in the world would any political party, no matter who they are, not take who they put in the top spot seriously?
I don't know.
And
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I mean, you can't have it both ways. You can't say, well, we respect the office of the president, and the president should be this, and this, but don't take him too seriously. He's a TV host. You can't have it both ways. Now, there's no other way around that. And herein lies the hypocrisy of what we started the topic of this today,
Sure.
which is, they were gnashing their teeth and saying, the United States is being taken over by communists because of BLM in 2020.
Oh, no, those socialists.
We love the truckers. The truckers are doing the right thing, and
right.
shutting down the border, and you're shutting down the Capitol, and they're doing really good. And I'm going, well, how's that different than BLM? Well, it's different. You mean like white people?
Well,
that's what the deal is. It's like we're making America great again. We're making America white dominated again. But again, you can't even answer, and you're pretty plugged into politics.
Yeah,
if not more.
Sure.
And you've even run for office, and I haven't. But even as plugged in as you are, you still can't tell me what the Republican Party actually stands for.
I don't. That's why I ask these questions, because I have no idea. And because there are so many Republicans, it baffles me because it's like I don't understand the logic.
But you sit there, I was thinking about this Sunday when I was working, and I thought about Trump's 4 years. Name me his top 3 accomplishments. There isn't any. There's none. He didn't do anything for 4 years except play golf.
Yeah, well, that's true. And he complained about Obama playing golf.
Hold the Bible upside down. I mean, I literally did nothing for 4 years. I mean, other than terrorize people and make fun of special needs reporters and do all kinds of just inane things and talk all the time and lie 37,000 times. But other than that, they get banned from Twitter. I would guess his biggest accomplishment was attacking the Congress.
Well, I think I see. I don't know. The only thing, but I agree with you. The only thing I can think. Yeah, I know. But Jenny, what I'm saying is that the only explanation that I can think, because I don't know. I'm not in their minds. The only explanation that I can think of is many of them who support Trump or who are in the Republican Party currently, they have come to something that they have convinced themselves, or whatever the case may be, that they don't. I don't know. The only thing I can think of, because I'm thinking, if I was them, why would I continue to support the party if, like what you're saying, I guess in their mind, they don't want someone who stands for anything. They just want someone who creates chaos, who just doesn't keep the other person from doing anything. And so that's, I mean, because what other reason? I agree with you, because the current Republican Party has not stood for fiscal responsibility. They keep getting us in debt. They have not stood for family values because they're well, I don't understand their logic, their thinking, unless we go and ask, I'm sure they all have different explanations, but but it was easier to answer back in the old days, or at least 10 years ago, because we could say, so what do you stand for? Well, I want smaller government. I want family values. There was like a list of things. Now, to your point, we have no idea.
But we now have the hindsight of 2020.
Sure. Yeah.
We can both look at the 21st century Bush administration, and we can look at Trump, and literally both presidents didn't do anything for 12 years except run up debt, get us into wars or keep us into wars, expand our military all over the place like Trump did. Even though they said, well, he didn't start any wars. Well, he tried.
Yeah.
he expanded us. He put our military into 50 different countries in the first 2 years. But nobody took the bait.
God, can you imagine if he was president right now and we're going through this? Oh my God.
It would be over.
It would be.
Oh no, it would be over.
It would be just. I don't even want to think. Yeah.
Literally, because he was so uninterested in supporting NATO. In fact, he wanted to leave NATO.
Yes. Yep.
And he was so unsupportive of the EU. We'd be done.
Well, yeah.
We'd be done.
Well, it's definitely, yeah.
I mean, but going back to what I asked, until you can answer what Republicans really stand for, except for authoritarianism and taking back control, making sure people like you and I don't have a say, much less even have freedom. What's the point of dealing with them? What's the point of even engaging with them anymore? It's like,
well, no, I
talk somebody with a flamethrower in one hand and a Bible in the other, going, he doesn't care what you think. He's just going to kill you if you try to deal with him.
No, I understand what you're saying, and I just don't know that we as a country, because I know we've run out of time here. I just don't know that we as a country can continue to be divided the way we are.
We aren't.
I just don't think
we aren't divided.
Okay, well then why don't you talk to Republicans? If we're not,
well, you want me to answer that? You're not gonna like it.
It's not if I like it. It's.
But you're literally trying to make a case for them, because that's what they're saying is, the country's divided because of Democrats. No. We're trying to build bridges. We're trying to get people inoculated. We're trying to accomplish things. You have no intention of helping us.
Yes.
You have no intention of helping people vote. You have no intention of being a good neighbor. That's not a divide. They're throwing up a wall. And there's a difference. That's
a good point.
Democracy. And Republicans are. Republicans are to make this country not a democracy anymore. And when you attack the Congress, that's not my fault.
Sure.
That's those terrorist Republicans. They attack Congress. Name me a time when Democrats tried to stop an election by attacking Congress. As soon as you answer that, let me know. But no, the United States is not divided because of Democratic policies or Democrats. It's because Republicans keep attacking that. No, I know what you're saying. But they keep saying that. They keep saying what they're talking about. Oh, well, America's divided because of Democrats. I'm like, no. This isn't a two-sided deal.
Sure.
Republicans refusing to participate in democracy and attack democracy itself. And there's no way around that. We got to quit excusing it, or we're going to end up with a Putin.
Yeah. Well, no, I agree with you. I mean, you and I are almost always on the same page. I guess the conversation that especially like when we're talking about Black Lives Matter and Freedom Convoy, which is how we started this conversation.
Right.
Somehow, I don't know how, and maybe that's what makes it so frustrating. Somehow we have to, and I know it seems like we're always the one trying, and they're not. And when I say they, I don't mean anyone specifically. I mean just people who want
Republicans.
Yeah, well, I don't think there are Republicans. I mean, I think there are many independents that are like that, and there are probably some Democrats that enable them as well. But you know, I mean, I just think that I don't know what the answer is. But a year from today, 2 years from today, something has to happen. I don't know what it is, but something's going to have to happen. And I know we've been trying to help each other, and like to your point, get vaccinated to protect people. And I know that you and I have gotten to the point where we have said, you know what, or at least I have. If you want to get vaccinated, and thoughts and prayers, I can't stop. You know, I got to stop worrying about you. And so I just think that, but I think just inside of us, because that's what makes us progressive, because we care about people. We care about, you know, other human beings other than us, that it's natural for us, at least for me, to periodically reevaluate and go, you know what, we got to start trying to, you know, come back and shake our neighbors' hands. And even though they don't want to shake our hand, we got to keep trying. Now, I'm not going to try as hard anymore, because why do you try hard with people who don't want to do it? But I think you can't stop. You know what I mean? I don't know how I don't know how you do that.
Well, I think that's going to be a different episode.
Yeah, exactly.
And as much as I appreciate, and I think we're all going to have to do this. We're all going to have to separate. And I think this is a truth bomb. I believe the difference between you and I is that you have a lot of people that you associate with in your personal life that are fairly conservative and fairly Republican, and you go in those circles. So you're trying to find a workaround. Unfortunately, I keep my friend circles very tight and don't hang out with a lot of Republicans. And this is the biggest reason why, is that I find no value in associating with conservatives at this point in time. I find no value as somebody that's an assault victim like myself. I see nothing but trauma, and I see them only acting worse. And January 6th, through my lens, probably look different than yours. You know, unless but I think anybody that's a former assault victim of any kind of a hate crime, when we look at conservatives acting the way they are, we still relive that trauma. And so when we say, I need to put barriers up because they're off the rails, and they may not be coming back for a while, and why would I put myself in harm's way when they aren't trying themselves? There is a point where you got to say there is a hard boundary, and 81 million Americans said we want a better America in 2020. And there is a reason why Biden won by almost 8 million votes, is because quite frankly, there's that many people saying we got to change. We got too many big issues. And Putin, what's going on in Russia and the year is to me reinforcing what we did in 2020. is taking somebody that had authoritarian dreams and profiting off the presidency at all costs and getting them out before we can.
Sure. Well, no, I hear you, and I agree, and I just I agree. I mean, I understand what you're saying. And I don't think you and I looked at I don't think people that have been many people. I don't think Barbara or I can't speak for Mama Ruth, but I think we all thought January 6th was just
sure, yeah,
just got crazy, just wrong, and all it. I think the only thing that I'm saying is that I'm going to speak as much as I can, like you have been, to make sure that we don't get crazy people in office and that we don't enable Trump again, and that we speak out and that we damage the brand, that we do what we can because because he occurred, because we were silent, we didn't fight enough. I don't know what the answer is. I guess what I'm saying is that I just that's just like the half glass full kind of person in me. Is that I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if the Dallas Cowboys have to win the Super Bowl again or what the case is, but somehow we have to have the ability to, I don't know. I don't know if it's ever going to be the way it was before, where we were able to shake hands and do these kind of things and so forth. I would hope it would be, and I don't know what it is. So anyway, that's kind of what I'm saying. But.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, right. That we do have to wrap up. We went
what a serious show.
It went pretty heavy, pretty fast.
It did.
As always, we appreciate everybody that tunes in and spends their precious time and shares time with us. I know where I'm going to be next, because we always do this at the beginning of the show.
That's right.
You're going to see me in about 15 minutes on Two Queers in a Truck, along with my close friend and loved one, Christian. And even when we don't always completely agree on everything, at the end of the day, we all want to help our neighbors, and this is why this coffee show was started, was to be a community show and create a better Charlotte and compete, make a better world, which I also think, many things are reflective of the days that you live in, and we have some pretty dark days ahead of us, unfortunately.
Well, thank you, Jen, and I will be here, I'm sure. Up until I'm doing my fasting. I'm doing my pre-Lent fasting before St. Patrick's Day. So I'm here, and I think I've lost 9 pounds now. I'm so excited, and so we'll see what happens. And I've got 2 more weeks left, so we'll see what happens. And then I can't wait for that ice cold Miller Lite.
Oh, by the way, it is since this is aired on Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday
for the people that take that particular part of Christianity. It is Ash Wednesday.
It's Ash Wednesday. That's right.
So it's the beginning of the Lent season.
Hey, Jen, can I tell you something real quickly? I know we've gone way over, but I just have to. So when I was younger, I'm a Lutheran now. I grew up Catholic. And when I was younger, my 2 younger brothers used to, I think I told you the story before. My younger brothers used to get cigarette ashes and cross to act like they had gone to church, because they didn't actually go to church on Ash Wednesday. And so instead of having to explain why they decided to skip church on Ash Wednesday, they would just get cigarette ashes, and everybody would think they went to church. Yeah, really, really bootleg. That's awesome. And then, of course, last night is my favorite holiday besides Halloween, Fat Tuesday. So that was last night, right? And so, all right. Absolutely. So with that said, once again, join us just in about 15 minutes or Two Queers in a Truck. We'll be on that show as well. And with that said, let's go ahead and end the show. Oh, I need to say this. Well, I think one of our commercials, we already said it, but don't forget, next week, we will actually have some ladies who founded Support Our Schools. They will be on to talk about the fight for true public schools. They will be on next week on our next week's show. And so please stay tuned. They will be on our next week's show. So with that said, let me see if I can get some music going. All right.
I'll have a great week.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye. Hey, folks, thanks for watching and tuning in. You guys are what makes us great, and we truly enjoy doing this, and hope you enjoy this week's episode. See you later. Bye.
Bye.
Next up, thanks for watching Coffee and Pan Dulce. Next up is Two Queers in a Truck. Stay tuned.